Recording. Alrighty. Hi there, and welcome to our virtual studio visit. My name's Yvette, and I'm the director of the Goulburn Regional Art Gallery. Thanks for joining me as we virtually visit the studio of the artist Ray Monde, based in between Braidwood, New South Wales, and Seattle, USA. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the unceded lands on which the Goulburn Regional Art Gallery stands today and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. I'm delighted today to be joined by Ray to talk about his show, which is currently on display at the Goulburn Regional Art Gallery, What the Wayfarer Saw, the journey that led to the works in the exhibition and about his process more broadly. Studio visits are a regular part of artists and curators' practices and are an important way to get insight into what artists are investigating, thinking about, experimenting with. So we're really excited to share that, a little bit of that with you today. To introduce Ray very briefly, he's an artist whose work is held in collections nationally and internationally. He was a finalist in both the 2022 Blake Prize and the 2021 Paddington Art Prize, and has a wonderful ongoing connection with the Goulburn Regional Art Gallery, with his works included in the 2018 group show Core Stories, and now with What the Wayfarer Saw, his first solo show at a public gallery. A big hello to Ray. How are you, and where are you calling in from today?
Hi, Yvette. I'm very well. I'm calling from Braidwood, from my studio. It's actually technically Bombay, which is kind of outside Braidwood, past the tip. And look, I'll spin you around very quickly. Look, there's my little view with my little blue bits of paper. So that's where I'm situated right now.
Beautiful. We might delve into a little bit about the journey, as I said, that informed the body of work that's currently on display, taken nearly a year ago to this day. So that's a nice special connection as well. An 86-kilometre journey, which you took on foot from Goulburn to Braidwood. Just a little bit about what sparked the idea for this very long and sometimes treacherous walk.
It's kind of funny, like I've driven that road between Goulburn and Braidwood a lot, and you just tend to fly through it at 100 kilometers an hour and don't sort of really look at the landscape or take it in. You're just getting from A to B. And then I think there was this, before COVID, there was always this thing of like the slow food process and slowing things down. And then COVID actually just accentuated, you know, an appreciation of doing things more slowly. And so that was kind of the beginning of the idea to, well, why not walk it and immerse myself in the landscape and just take my time with it, and actually kind of to spend a lot of time actually doing nothing. I think with social media and so much technology, where like we're always sort of entertained, but there are a lot of times on this walk where it was just me and what was around me. And that was a rare, unique experience for me, that sometimes just sitting in one place for 2 or 3 hours, either because it was raining or, you know, my feet were sore. That was actually a nice thing, because the longer you sit, the more you see. So, yeah.
Totally. Yeah, that sounds like an amazing experience of fully slowing down, even within the context of COVID, slowing down further. Quite impressive.
The other thing I wanted to do, actually, now I think about it, was to try and bring in the outside into the gallery space. So that's why I particularly timed it with, I wanted to do the walk exactly a year prior to the exhibition, so that the landscapes or the works on the wall reflected what was outside the walls of the gallery. And I really want to have that sort of that local connection of these landscapes, which are outside the gallery, inside the gallery walls.
Yeah, no, we're definitely seeing that with the, you know, all this rain that we've been having, the lush kind of greens, particularly of the grasses, are resonating inside and outside. I guess with this journey, was there anything in particular that surprised you along the way?
Yeah, the weather surprised me. Like, it went from like being caught in the storm on the first night to like getting my ears blistered from sunburn. Like, so that I guess I thought I'd been prepared, but clearly not prepared enough. The other surprising thing for me was just how interested people were in what I was doing. Like, from lollipop men to bikers that went past, like people would see me walking. And I think because no one walks that road, like lots of people would just like 100 kilometers an hour to zero. They would just pull in front of me and go, "What are you doing?" And it was like, I never, ever anticipated that sort of thing, that people would be not interested in what I was doing, that so much that they just would pull over and have a chat, and B, then get out of their cars and have like a 10-minute conversation with me at the side of the road to some random strangers meeting each other. And that was probably the most surprising thing, that just like being in once they found out I was an artist and not some like road worker, I think that was quite unexpected for them, and that sort of made them engage with me more. And I had a lot of really interesting conversations on the road, which is not at all what I expected.
Yeah, and you garnered quite a following as well. People who've come to visit the exhibition, were some of the people who encountered you and followed your journey a little bit via kind of social media, and to see the end result, I think for them has been really rewarding. So you've sort of fostered a community in that as well, which is special.
Yeah, it was it was really special. Some people stopped 3 times, like, and like on the way to the coast and on the way back from the coast. And like, that was really special, actually. And it was lovely then for those people to come in, like, and the people who own Springfield, like Ron and Ada Adamson, they I was a complete stranger, and they let me spend the night in their home because I had nowhere to stay like that night. That is so well, it's country hospitality, but it's actually, no one does that anymore. No one welcomes a complete stranger into their home for the night, feeds them, looks after them, and then, lets them go on their way. It's quite archaic in a way.
Yeah, no, but very special. And along the journey, how were you kind of recording your experiences or thinking about your time?
I took a lot of photographs and video with my phone, but I think one of the big learnings for me, I took along this little sketchbook that I put in my back pocket, and actually it became invaluable in terms of, like, I would make quick little 5-minute sketches of particular scenes. But what surprised me looking back at the photographs compared to the sketches is that, like, a quick 5-minute sketch or 2-minute sketch actually pulls out more of the essence of that landscape than a photograph. Like a photograph, like almost everything is like at the same level in a way. There's no particular importance in terms of the final artwork. But you can see with this work, the photograph doesn't look like anything like this. It's like a dam with some thistles in the front of it. But actually that almost directly translated into an artwork on the wall. And without this sort of quick sketch, this en plein air sketching, the works that, as I worked on them, wouldn't have been realized in the same way. There's another one here of I don't know where that's coming up. Of like a plowed field, and again that kind of almost directly translated into a final artwork. And I mean, it's really basic. It's just like, a few sort of sticky little trees and a couple of birds in a field, but it's that was really evocative for me when I got back into the studio to translate it into a larger work.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess following on from that, so you completed your journey, and that was wonderful. And you were down 2 toenails, which you might like to talk about.
I forgot to bring them in.
And return to the studio to make what you've described as landscapes of the mind. So using that lived experience of the walk to explore themes like vulnerability and connection to the landscape. But can you speak a little bit about that act, I guess, in the studio where you are of translating experiences when you're back in one place following that journey?
Yeah, I think after the journey, you need time to like digest it and think about what you just did. And I think when I was doing the walk, I had no expectation of what would come out of it. But I think after quite a short while, like I had these pictures in my mind, like see really clear images in my mind of what I wanted to create. And then it was literally just recreating what I had in my head onto the canvas. And I've never had that clarity before. I've never had that sort of direct flow between what was in my head and what I needed to get on the canvas. Normally there's a lot more experimentation, and with the paper layers, I can just keep layering stuff on. But I knew when to stop with these works, which is often hard to know as an artist. Like sometimes you can overwork a piece. But 2 of the main pieces just fell out of my head onto the page. I also had conversations with a really good friend, Beck, and she said to me that there was a lot of parallels between me coming home to Australia after being away for a long time because of COVID, and the journey of Odysseus in Homer's The Odyssey. And there's a lot of, so that sort of helped shape that narrative. And so there's like little Easter egg clues through the work that are that speak to sort of this epic poem. And so there's kind of 3 layers to it. There's like simple landscapes. There's the Homeric Odyssey sort of Easter eggs hidden in it. And then there's this sort of this vulnerability that I had never anticipated, but it, like spending so much time on my own on this walk made me reconsider how I acted when I'm in the country. Like I realized that when I was very comfortable on my own in the country. I grew up in the country, so like I love the rural landscape and the rural environment. But then when you put another person in that, then I changed myself to be something different. I was acting in a way that I was actually playing a role, and that was a real eye-opener for me, that I wasn't being myself when I was in an environment that I really loved when there were other people around.
Yeah. So for the viewers at home who I'm sure will come to see the exhibition very soon, is there's a recurring figure throughout the works, which you might like to speak to, which is sort of a semi-autobiographical depiction of yourself in the landscape following this journey and this narrative.
Yeah, there's a lot of nude figures in the landscape, which are representative of me, and that's because like the first artwork I did was like of Hotel Calypso, which is essentially like me locked in quarantine, nude under iron bars. A little boy at the opening asked me whether I was doing a poo, but I wasn't actually doing a poo. It's like, yeah. So and that was sort of the lead into this series of naked protagonists through the artworks, and essentially that's like because I kind of felt stripped bare, that I on this walk, I realized this role play that I was doing, and that I thought all my life, all my whole life, I've been being a different person when I've been around people, because I'm queer, and like that, you kind of live in their shadows. Like every person you meet, you're sort of sussing out how they will respond to you, and how much of yourself you'll reveal. Like I meet someone and I don't know whether to introduce my husband Chris as my partner, or or my husband, and there's always this weird interplay when you meet a new person. And so on this walk, I realized this role play, and that I should just let it go, because everyone I met on the walk didn't seem to care, and it made me question whether this role I was playing, who I was playing this role for. Was it a protection measure for me, or was it to make them like me more because I'm being someone they think I might be? And then I realized it's stupid. Like there was this epiphany that I just need to be myself wherever I am. And so by making myself vulnerable, I opened myself up to new experiences, and it's actually led me to change the way I live. So like when I go into the rural supply shop now, this is going to sound ridiculous, but I used to put on a plaid shirt and my boots to go in there because it was a role I had to play. Whereas now I'm happy to go in with my brooch on and my shirt tied up and my like I don't know why I was doing it. It's dumb. No one cares, but anyway. That's so yes, the protagonist through the work is, I gave him hair, a little bit of vanity. It's all me exploring this epiphany.
There's a real sense of, you do get that catharsis, and as you follow the works along, a great sense of kind of freedom and joy. So sounds like quite a transformative journey on a number of levels.
But that's also something when you look at the works as well, like they start off quite dark, and I hadn't noticed this until they were up on the walls. They start off quite dark, and by the time you get through the journey, they're much brighter. And I think that's that sort of emotional gradation from being quite a dark place to going, okay, well, let's see what the enlightenment is like.
And to shift a little bit, but fittingly, you're calling us from your beautiful studio. So I thought we might be able to delve into your process a little bit, and how you came to what is currently your primary artistic practice of overpainting paper with paint and utilizing sort of fragments in these overwhelming and very detailed collage assemblage works.
Yeah, so I have always been obsessed with paper. I don't know why, but even as a kid, like we lived in an old farmhouse, and the ceilings were like 3.5 meters high, and I absolutely covered them with torn up bits of paper from magazines. And when my brothers were doing jobs on the farm, I mean, I did jobs. I scraped out the pig pen, but I would go outside, and my brothers used to say, go inside and cut out shapes, because that was what I did. I cut out shapes. And I like the tactile nature of paper. And that kind of then led me into a career in advertising, which is also paper-based, like advertisements in magazines and like direct marketing and all that sort of stuff is paper-based. And I really liked getting paper samples and feeling them. And so that was special to me. And so like working with paper is also quite affordable as well. Like, it's I started off, just using the natural colors from a printed page. But then what I realized is that I would be halfway through an artwork and then I wouldn't have an appropriate color. So that led me to experiment by overpainting magazine pages with like a thin layer, like a thin glaze of paint, so that you can still see. Yeah, say that again.
Like a wash over the top.
Yeah, like a wash. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So that the you still get to see the texture and the print and like some of the image underneath. So it adds like complexity to it. So like I've been over painting stuff today, and you can see with this, like there's yellow here, but I've painted it in green. And so I just like, there will be a place where I'm working where this will be the right color. And then like even, you can see like this is a woman, well, it's sideways, but in a bikini or underwear or something like that. But you get this, if you get the texture of the wash right, you get some sort of shrinking away from the page. So you get this like nice stippled effect, a dappled effect on the pages. Then I tear it up. So I always create like a palette of colors. And so then whatever I'm working on, I can tear that up and stick it down. And then if I don't have quite the right color, I'll overpaint some more, and then I'll have another palette ready to go.
That's so interesting. Is it important for you that the paper is kind of magazine paper and has that sort of shiny quality to it, or is it just that familiarity with, as you said, your childhood and your background in advertising that maybe there's a tie there?
I'm very particular about the kind of magazine print I'll use, like anything that's sort of fast print, like Time magazine, or like the Good Weekend, is the quality of the paper is not as good. So like I'm using old back editions of Wallpaper magazine, and then like Vanity Fair, and well, I've got all these subscriptions, particularly in the US, because it's like really cheap to get a magazine subscription. So anyway, women's magazines are perfect for me. They're glossy, they have great color and texture, the print quality, they must use better inks. And so Vogue and Vanity Fair are sort of like my go-to magazine.
Great. As you have sort of these fragments of paper and the palette as you describe them, and you're kind of manifesting these images to life, are you focusing on developing kind of one work at a time, or are you moving between the sort of landscape scenes?
I do work on one piece at a time. Actually, I really do work on one piece at a time. But I learned a lesson maybe 2 years ago. I used to like map out a series in my mind, but I realized that kind of by the time I got to the third or fourth one, I would be bored with it, like, because I'd sort of predicted what was going to happen, and no one likes a predictable life, like, no one likes a sedentary life. And so I have like a rough idea about what I want to do, and then I'll pretty much execute piece after piece, because a lot of the stuff that you have to do along the way, like I glue down the paper with a binder medium, and then I apply like a soft gel gloss on top of that, and then I put a polymer varnish with UVLs over that to protect the colors. And I don't really enjoy the gloss and the varnishing. So like, if I do that each time, then I don't have this sort of massive of boring stuff to do at the end to protect the artworks. But yeah, like one at a time, and often like by doing it one at a time, that will lead into the next narrative. And I mean, that's where that naked figure in the landscape came from, by working on pieces, and as you work, you think, and that shapes the next piece in the series, and also helps with colors and sort of consistency through the series.
Yeah, they share the same DNA, if you will. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I guess that leads me nicely to my next question, is that you do develop work serially and create bodies of work, investigating and fleshing out themes or moments in time, or in this case, journeys. I guess, can you speak a little bit about that tendency in your practice and that need to create multiple works to touch on ideas?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think all my work has a story to tell, and so I think I like an ongoing narrative in pieces, and it helps to have, I guess, a story in your mind that you want to portray. And yeah, you might be able to do that in one work, but I feel like having a series, and I don't know, I have rules. I don't know why I have rules, but when I first started, all my canvases would have to be square, and I would always do 10 works to a series. And then I realized I was just being ridiculous, and that's a silly rule to set for myself. And so then I've changed shape and size, particularly for this show. There's some of my largest works I've ever produced in this exhibition. But
which I should mention
comes out.
Just includes dip ditches and trip ditches, so multi-parts to one work, creating this really amazing sense of scale with the viewer as well, and a sort of overwhelming feeling sometimes.
Yeah, and that helps tell this narrative. Like, that I have this story in my head, and now I just keep making works until I feel like that story is told. And I think that has been influenced by works of Sidney Nolan, with his Eliza Fraser series and his Ned Kelly series. And I kind of really like that approach, because it helps you have a foundation to build a series of artworks, and helps flesh out the story I'm trying to tell.
Incredible. Well, just finally, because we are sort of in the backstage pass of your studio, is there anything you're working on at the moment or thinking about at the moment that you might like to share with our digital audience today?
Yeah, you can see these works behind me are like these monolithic rocks. Like, you can, here I'm using my pencil as a pointer. This one is like, it's called the Sentinel. It's a big rock in the Shoalhaven River. And these are some kids, I don't know whether you can see them, but these really little figures in this sort of monolithic landscape. And so I'm working on a series of works that I'm in my head I'm calling the river, which actually connects our place here on the Shoalhaven River with our property here is called Riverbend. And as part of the Arthur Boyd Studios down at the other end of the Shoalhaven River, there's a property called Riversdale. So it's like the river connects Riverbend with Riversdale. And so I'm doing a series of works, mainly monolithic rock works in water, about the connection between this property and this artist studio and the artist studio of Arthur Boyd at Bundanon. It's still in its early stages, but I really like the direction. I found a new way of sort of texturizing water, which I particularly like. And then I'm also creating like these little tiny vignettes of like nude bathers. Again, sort of following that vulnerability theme of being open in a watery environment, like and putting yourself out there for open interactions.
Incredible. Well, we look forward to seeing how that body of work develops. But thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope everyone joining us online has enjoyed this behind the scenes insight as well. Thanks, Ray.
Thanks for that. It's been a lot of fun.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.